Okay, can you hear us, the first thing? Yeah, okay, good. So Ron was going to do this, but he was having sex and putting his clothes on at the same time. He fell over and hurt his back. So
You've been put in the hot seat.
yeah, so it'll be much shorter. So let's start with the beginning of it all. I mean, not when you met Nick, but when you got this script. Did it read like that? I mean,
Yes, it did. I knew reading the script that it was going to be fantastic. And working with Nick was also fantastic. I have to say that it was an incredibly hard movie to shoot in so much as purely because we shot in Venice. And that's I've shot in jungles and deserts and all over the place, just like most other DPs. But Venice is impossible to shoot in. I mean, especially in those days when the equipment was very heavy. You couldn't. Everything is on barges, not cars. You have to be so careful with the tides getting stuff in and out of the bridges. And also, it was a very, very low budget movie. We shot it in 6 weeks in Venice and 4 days just outside London. What made it difficult was we had such a tight budget, we had no rigging crews. So everything we shot we did on the day, there's nothing pre-rigged. And it just made it very difficult. But
I've shot there twice and it is horrible and especially the places you chose because there's nothing straight.
Absolutely.
You can't hang anything.
And we also chose places where tourists don't go. And it was in the winter, January, February. And Venice is quite a scary place. It's completely decayed.
I mean, yeah, and it's rotten. I mean, you can't.
And it is rotten. You can smell the rot.
No, the film smelled. Well, it didn't.
That's why you don't want to go there in the summer. It smells worse.
No, but you can smell it in the film. I mean, everything. I mean, there's lots of dirty water and mold, and everyone's wet.
That's right.
And it's cold. And
miserable.
It's
depressing.
And there's horrible Italian hotels, horrible with horrible lighting. So that hasn't changed. It's still like that. But going back to you saying it's impossible, but your film stock was
slow. 100 ASA.
100 ASA. 100 ASA. Can you do that? No, none of them can do that.
For the night stuff, I pushed it to stop.
Right.
Because once again, lighting at night there is it's very difficult. You can't we had no condors, and you put lights where you could get them, not really where you wanted them, and it's very, very difficult. And going back to the beginning of the movie, to be asked to shoot this by Nick. I shot a few other pictures prior to that, quite a few actually, and so there's great trepidation, sort of shooting for a director who'd been a great cinematographer, and he really left me alone. I mean, and the great thing is by that time we were also great friends, and we shared an apartment in Venice, so we were constantly talking about the movie. We lived together, we had dined every night, we drank together. So with all that conversation, one knew really how he felt and what he wanted. And I think once a director can really put into words what he wants, it makes it much easier. And I was still worried, I'm shooting this movie, and he said, I want to tell you something.
You want what?
He said, I want to tell you something. He said, I remember one night, he said, whatever you do, don't be frightened of the dark. And that meaning that, let the blacks go black and don't worry about shadows. And he made it so easy. So, I mean, it was just a wonderful movie to shoot this. I think it's the only movie I really shot that when we were shooting, I knew it was going to be great. And I've got to say, it's a great privilege to be asked to come here and screen this and talk to you. Especially for a 70th anniversary screening of the BSC. And
well, we've always liked it, and you showed it a few years ago, and there was a special showing in Notting Hill, and there was a tribute to Nick at BAFTA some years before that, well, about the same time. But this film always comes up, and everyone hangs around afterwards and doesn't go home. It is odd and horrible.
Right.
And that sequence, when you go to, you can feel people's, and you say you couldn't get the lights where you wanted them.
No,
but you got these weird shapes, and then things, you put the camera where someone will cross make a silhouette or something. But that's why I asked you how it read, because it doesn't, and this curious operating style. Well, I don't know if that was Nick.
Obviously Nick is very involved in the composition, and a complete Italian crew. We didn't speak any English. But I did take Simon Ramsey as a focus puller.
But who was this operator, Lucio?
So I operated some of the stuff. I did all the handheld stuff myself, the love scene, obviously, and things like that. But it was an incredible experience.
Yeah, because it does move the whole time. This thing was zooming, which is sort of.
But Nick's always loved the zoom. Right since the first time I ever met him, he always loved.
Yeah, well, that generation do they not?
Yeah.
He was always, that transitional thing, going into the water, into reflection, out again, in, out, and they were very elegant. I mean, they're just hard cuts. They're not. They're not. That. I mean, but then you needed that, because when you read, I can't imagine reading this script thinking, I wouldn't fucking shoot that. It makes no sense.
It was a great script. Incredibly.
No, but did you? I mean, I don't know. Has anyone read the book? I mean, I don't know if this. I don't know.
It's a short story.
Yeah, But.
And I think when Daphne du Maurier saw it, she just thought it was fantastic.
Oh, she did.
She thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Because it ties so beautifully at the end, when he
right.
sees himself at his own funeral and he comes back, and then the red thing you were talking about earlier, the red thing. Do you want to notice the red thing? Yeah, there's okay, how many red things are in it? Well, we'll do a question today. But you just said you get. Tony said you got tribute, the credit for that, but it wasn't. It was art direction.
Yeah, I mean, we took all the red out of the movie.
So if you look at
except for obviously very important things, the girl's coat, the dwarf's jacket, and I have to say I got a lot of credit for that. But really, it was nothing to do with me, because it wasn't digital. You could do that quite simply now digitally with a digital intermediate. So we had to do it with costume design and set decoration. And so the red there's red when it's important. There's a couple of signs we put behind them. There's when Donald looks up in the canal one time, it's a pair of red men's underwear. There's the red hat tracking across the school kids, the red hats.
Yeah.
When they're looking at the dead body coming up, a little bit of red in Donald's scarf, and it really is and I think it sets the tone quite beautifully.
Yeah, and then it builds. I mean, you see it more and more. When you get so paranoid, I mean, he's getting more and more paranoid. It's and then you see the car that's got a little red.
Yeah,
and then the cat, and the hooker's light, and then the
dwarf.
Bottom
The
of
dwarf was really scary.
Well, that's horrible. Yeah.
I mean, really scary. And Donald Sutherland was always petrified about shooting that scene, and it was always scheduled to be on the last day in Venice. And right from the day we started shooting, he kept pestering me, "Please don't do this on the last day. Please don't do this on the last day, because I'm going to die." When she takes the chopper out, that was when it's going towards his neck. That, believe it or not, was me, hunched over like that, because he sort of trusted me. And then also when the chopper goes into his neck, we got from a butcher a suckling pig and put Donald's wig and scarf on it, and did that, And then we took that to Harry's bar and they cooked it 2 days later for us.
It sure was delicious. But maybe going back to that, what other filthy things do you do? But going back to the stocks and cameras and all that stuff that they want to hear about. I mean,
I shot it on a PBSR.
Right.
And I like that because it had a 200-degree shutter, so you
that was the best camera in the world.
Another eighth of a stock out, And
so that's a Panavision camera that opens more than 180 degrees.
That's right.
It's supposed to be impossible, but it did exist.
But it did exist, and you got an eighth of a stock, which also helped in those dark streets. Yeah. The stock was whatever, I can't remember, 52.
Well, I don't know, it was something called 54, so I don't know what it was. 100 ASA. It was
100 ASA, and so we forced it a couple of times and pushed it to. Whereas, going back to when I first shot my first movie in 1967, stock was 50 ASA.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how we lit that. We lit that with 2Ks and 5Ks, where you'd use a 650 now.
Yeah. No, I don't know how you did it. I really don't. I mean, and also those lenses were slow. I mean, what was it?
Very slow. We did have one. We had one fast lens. That's all. But they were slow lenses.
But who were they? Were they Cook? Or they
were Cooks.
ones?
They were Cooks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you could see the old minty.
Yeah, right. The old
around the candles and
they're wonderful.
Yeah. Super zoom. Piece of crap. I love them. And they're still, well, they're popular now.
Yeah, well, I had the last picture I did, they rehoused some speed panchros. I mean, they were wonderful. They were beautifully, you know, Taylor Hobson Cook lenses were fantastic. These were from the 40s. And I think right up until the late 80s, or even maybe like 80% of the world's movies were shot on those Taylor Hobson Cooks, those speed panchros. And when they're rehoused, they're beautiful. They're soft. I mean, obviously they're sharp, but they're soft. And they're wonderfully warm. You get great skin tones, you know. They're great, great lenses.
Now the Germans would still call them shit, but I mean they'd have nice
okay. Well, you know,
have nice housings on them.
We don't all, you know.
No, we don't ask them. Why would you? What else?
I don't like Zeiss lenses, so they're shit.
Yeah. Well, no, they look like
too cold, far too cold, too sharp.
Well, they are. They're humorless.
You're right. They're humorless.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's not Bobby Arnold, so. Yeah. So. The scenes between Laura and John, were they as scripted, or did they wander?
Yeah, very much so.
Because they feel very real. I mean, they feel very bickering.
I think they both have incredibly strong performances. Yeah. Really didn't go off script very much.
Because they're stamping on each other's lines.
That's right.
You know, because they're not. I mean, it make it quite difficult to edit. You know,
but it is. Listen, the script is a masterpiece. It's a wonderful, wonderful script. It's a wonderful script. And you know, the great thing about Nick is he worked very, very closely with the writers, and takes no credit for that. You know, never wanted a co-writing credit or anything like that. And you know, we developed a great shooting script.
And when you were talking to Nick about these things, or how you went in and out of these.
Well, I don't know whether we spoke about anything specific. It's just that, you know, we were mates. We shared an apartment together. We ate dinner every night. We drank together. And so one was always talking about the movie, and bits and pieces come out, and you get a good idea of what he wants, you know. But if something changed, he would go with it. He wasn't frightened to change direction. You know?
No, I mean, it feels like, but then the film after that you did with The Man Who Fell to Earth, was that after? It was after, wasn't it?
The Man Who Fell to Earth was a couple of years after.
Yeah, and that, the transitions there, and I was talking to a friend of mine this morning about sort of the ease of the flashback of how he just unannounced it, just threw it in.
That's
and
right.
You had to catch up, and that, but it's so, and my friend was saying, well, you know, it's not so used so much anymore, and I think it is, but I mean, he was always working with a weird time frame with The Man Who Fell to Earth, he was really playing with time and what he saw.
But absolutely, yeah, changing time.
And so, I mean, as part of that, did you just say, well, we need a transitional thing there, or you just...
No, Nick would say, we're going to do a transitional thing here. You know, I mean, and I mean, you know, talking about The Man Who Fell to Earth, I think one of the great brilliant things that Nick did was that, you know, Bowie had just come off of a massive amount of, I mean, first of all, he wasn't the first choice. The first choice was Michael Crichton, who, you know, the author. He was about 6'8" tall and very skinny and looked like an alien. And he'd acted in a few movies and small. And Nick had talked him into doing it. Then he pulled out the last minutes, and the movie you know, just got postponed and fell away. And then Nick had seen an BBC omnibus documentary called Cracked Actor. It was about Bowie, his drug abuse, alcohol, one thing and another. And he somehow got to Bowie and talked him into doing it. And there's certain scenes in that Nick really didn't direct Bowie. And it was a wonderful idea of his, because Bowie always turned up on time. He knew his lines. But at times, you could see in his performance, just watching him on set, he was barely holding it together. And I think that, and Nick was bright enough to understand that. And, you know, I don't think there's an actor then or today that could play that role.
No.
But now they're going to remake it.
No, he was the perfect.
But there you go. But enough about that.
Yeah. But anyway, with that, he seemed to take what you were doing there further on into this you know, this
Right,
non-linear, and then when he brings it back, I remember seeing something from the past. You're driving past the limousine and sees the
whatever
foundation family,
and
then but you knew then, because when we were young, well, DPs, wannabe DPs, we all looked at his films and the things you were doing as for our music videos, and he was very popular amongst the music. I mean, everyone talks about Scorsese and Coppola, but everyone was, and Ridley Scott, and everyone was saying, no, Nick Rowe, he was our guy,
right?
Because this was the music things. We made loads of appalling music videos, but the ideas were coming from him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think people forget that, because of all of our great directors, he was, I think, very overlooked.
Very much so.
30 years.
And most of the stuff he did was really low budget. I mean, Man of Fell 12 was low. This was incredibly low budget, don't you know? And then I shot Bad Timing, Essential Obsession to him, which that was the last picture J. Arthur Rank produced and financed. And they said that's a very sick movie, very sick people, which made Nick very happy.
Yeah.
And that was the last movie Rank did.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, we lost him recently. We need him now. Anyways, let's do some questions. Anyone got questions for Tony?
Thank God. No one's got any questions. Yes, sorry. Yeah, lady in the white shirt.
What was the exact meaning behind the shot where you have the candle blow out in the church?
Well, the spirits are doing that. Someone's doing that. I mean, I can't really answer that in any other way. We just moved the candle out. It seemed.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's
what
you've got
mind. And it said at the time as a cinematographer, I thought that seems to be the right thing to do, both in the church and once again it happens in the bishop's apartment when he wakes up at night.
But I mean, I think if you're living with Nick in smelly old Venice and it's cold and damp rooms, and you just talk about stuff, and there's so many odd shots.
Yeah, but
random shots of guys who just got nothing to do.
Those sort of things weren't scripted.
No, well, it can tell, but it's very much
wonderful. I mean,
it fits into the. I mean, candles burning out, or funny little red things, or let's put something red in the bottom of the glass. Right, yeah. Let's put a red light over there. Yeah. You can feel that was the buzz that was. They're all marooned on this damp island, and with cold bathroom floors.
Everything was cold, bitter, damp, horrible.
Crap bathroom floor. Anyway, sorry.
We drank a lot of cognac.
That was the answer. More. Have we another question?
Would you mind telling us about the scaffold scene? Because that has such jeopardy, and it's so incredibly frightening when he falls off. And I was thinking about a modern film made with that sequence for $10 million would not have anything like that same sense of reality. So, I mean, it was really scary. So, can you tell us a bit about how you set up?
Obviously, we bought out a stuntman, Dickie Graydon, who came out and rigged that stunt. And we were going to, he did and he was going to do everything. We were just going to pop in some stuff of Donald a bit later, maybe a bit lower down. And so we did the opening shot where the piece of wood comes through and the whole thing falls down, and Dickie Graydon is swinging there, And then Donald said, I want to do it. And Nick said, you can't do that. He said, I want to do it, Nick, I want to do it. So he talked Nick into letting him do it. So we put Donald in a harness. And, once he started swinging about, there was Nick with a great big piece of 2x1. Every time he came close, he kept pushing him away, I can't do it, And it made the scene, it made the scene. So everything was done high up like that, And it was fantastic. I don't know whether, unless you'd be allowed to do that with a major actor, on such a low budget picture. But everybody trusted.
I mean, it's all glass and iron. You can see all that stuff. That's real. Those are rubber things.
And the same thing when Julie fell off. She
cleared the table just, but it could have been a bit messy. Yeah. Well, probably was. No, it's a great thing in that plank. The first time you see it, you just see it sail out the roof.
It's an incredible.
It goes right to the.
It's an incredible scene.
Yeah. I mean, and we take it apart and watch it and look for the big bang shot. There isn't one.
No, there's not.
It's just nicely put together, you know.
And I think, you know, the other thing with Nick, he wasn't one of those directors that, you know, saw some stuff in the cutting room and gave notes to the editor and went back. He was there all the time, all the time, you know. And that's, I mean, that's the incredible thing about that love scene. I mean, there's two things that are incredible about that. I mean, one is, you know, them making love is an integral part of the movie. It's not just let's put a love scene in here, you know. And the other thing is, which also wasn't scripted, is the way Nick cut it. And I just think that whole thing is brilliant, you know. And it's very real. I mean, it's a very real love scene. They're very hard to do. And, you know, it's still, people still today insist, they're absolutely adamant that Julie and Donald had sex on camera. They didn't. There were only 5 people in the room. There were those two. Nick in a chair way back and Simon Ramsey and I with a handheld camera. And it wasn't that romantic. This camera, you were in a 2C, 400 bags. Yeah. And, you know, the only direction Nick gave me was that there's a shot where Donald rolls her over and pulls us, you know, shirt up and starts kissing and going down. He said, as soon as he gets out of frame, just lean in and get a close-up. And then just shoot what you can. We shot that in an hour, very quickly. And it was just wonderful. And then also...
Well, it's got all that tension release, you know, she's...
Right, well, it's the first time they made love since the...
But yeah, you feel like it's in the child died and it was almost the first time again. I mean, that's what's so tragic.
And they suddenly become a couple again.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, no one knew we shot that. I mean, obviously, that room was that was where they lived in Venice. It was the Balgrand Hotel. And the bathroom scene and all the other scenes we'd shot the day before. And we were going to leave the love scene till later. And then Friday night, Nick said, listen, don't tell anybody we're going to do it tomorrow. Take the 2C home, some rolls of film, some lenses. And we went in there. I had 3 little clip-on lights, almost like, you know, the silver thing you put light bulbs in with, you know, in garages. You know,
Italian still have them.
That's it. And I put some bulb
mushrooms in.
Mushrooms in there.
Yeah, 150s.
3 of those. Yeah. And Julie and Donald came in and we did it. And that was that. Now, Peter didn't trust the producers, so they didn't know we shot it. And both Nick and I had a very strong relationship with Bezos and Elliot Technicolor. So we sent that to him to hold. So no one knew we shot it, but somehow someone got hold of the negative, or they made a dupe, and they got some prints and put them in Playboy, got into Playboy. And the thing is, don't forget, what you see there is you're seeing 1:8:5 composition. But we're only composing to the ground glass, so we shoot full frame. So whereas we might cut there, we've actually shot everything, you know. And that was in the Playboy. So then people were insane. They really screwed on camera and blah, 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 but they didn't. And, you know, love scenes are very hard to shoot, but I mean, I think the other thing was there was a great trust. I mean, both Nick and I had worked, especially Nick, had worked on 4 movies with Julie, so we were all friends, you know. And Donald went with it, you know, it was wonderful. And so we're saying we did it in an hour and a half, and when we finished, we left them in bed, ordered a bottle of champagne from room service, and left a joint on the table and walked out. So there goes. And Warren Beatty was incensed when he saw that, because he and Julie were a couple, they lived together. He went insane when he saw that.
Yeah, but he slept them all.
And he had a lot of power in those days. And he went to Peter Bart, who was an executive at Paramount at the time. He's now the editor of Daily Variety or something, you know. And said, I want to recut that scene pubic hair by pubic hair. And then Peter Bart wrote a book, and it came out a couple of years ago, and I got a call from Donald who said, you read this? I said, no. He said, you've got to read it. He was screaming blue murder, because Peter Bart said, he came over from Paramount and was having dinner one night in Venice with Nick, and said, I'm coming to the set tomorrow. And apparently he said, this is all in the book, Nick said, good day to come. And he said, we're in there in the bedroom, and he said, I was writing some notes because I had to send a fax later about another movie to Paramount. You know. And he said, I looked up, and I said, Nick, they're actually fucking on camera. Now, first of all, Peter Bart was never in Venice, and he certainly was never in the room. Yeah. And, you know, so that's where that all came out, you know, and still today people think that. So that's a testament to Nick and his direction and his editing, and it's wonderful. I mean, I miss Nick desperately.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
we you know, I was lucky enough to have an incredible relationship with him. I met him in Israel in a movie I was clapper boy on, and he was directing the second unit, and his crew was Alex Thompson, the operator, and Kevin Kavanagh, the focus puller, and Diana Thompson was there, and I really gravitated towards those guys, you know.
Yeah, it's a good bunch.
And they were a great bunch, and you know, they taught me to be a young man, and they certainly taught me to drink properly. And just, you know, in those days you had such fun working on movies. It was a different time. But obviously it was very serious when you started shooting. And, you know, after that I went on to Chicago with Nick as his assistant. And then when he was excused duties after a month, you know, I said I would leave. Because in those days, if you worked for a DP, if he left or died or whatever, you'd have went with him.
You were samurai.
And the rest of the crew were Lean's crew from Lawrence, so I was the only one there. And Nick said, no, you must stay, it'll be good for your career. And I stayed, and very begrudgingly, I really loathed David Lean. I thought he was a complete arsehole before I really and some other prick told him that I didn't like him. So he went out of his way to friend me. And I got to tell you, in those days, sometimes we do 2 or 3 shots a day. You know, we shot for 52 weeks. And I learned so much about filmmaking from him. And he was as a director, was an absolute master. So it was a great experience.
So you called him an arse.
And then went back to Nick after that.
Yeah. I can't imagine him much fun on those.
Well, David Lean had no humour. Absolutely none. That's one of the reasons he fell out with Nick a bit, you know. The sad thing about that movie is the 2 scenes that are always spoken about in the cinematography are the opening scene of the funeral and the charge down the street at night. Yeah. And both those scenes Nick photographed. And I'm surprised other people took the credit for it. And that might have been the scene that did Nick in the charge, because, you know, we got, God knows how many, we must have had 30 arcs, so it's the biggest set I've ever seen. And weeks before that, Nick would send me out when it got dark, and I'd go out with his light meter and measure arcs at so many feet, you know, a quarter spot, half spot. And he lit the whole thing on paper, so we had like, everything was rigged, and he had, you know, a night to fill it all in, and we would shoot the next day.
So he was very organised.
And come midnight, Nick said to David, I'm ready. He said, what do you mean? We put him on a spot. He didn't like that. But it was an incredible scene, and Nick was an incredible scene.
So he was very fastidious, Nick, about putting all, I mean, you always think he's a bit sort of,
no, but especially, I mean, that's really the first time, other than when he was on the second, I'd seen him work. So, I mean, you had to do that. I mean, it was such a massive rig. I mean, you know, that set is huge. It was unbelievable. They couldn't build that set anymore today. It's too big.
He was probably on 50 ASA. No,
yeah,
it was 50 then.
Yeah, 50 ASA.
50 ASA. Yeah.
That's tough. Now you've got 800 ASA. So.
Yeah, and they're still not good enough. I saw a camera the other was 8,000 ASA. You could you leave the lens cap on. It's fantastic. Many more questions, please.
One back there.
You probably get this you probably get asked this quite a lot, but if you had any advice for like the filmmakers or the young filmmakers going into the industry today, what would it be, if that's all right?
Just shoot as much as you can. Really shoot as much as you can. And then you know, when you shot it, you know, like myself, I wish I could do every single shot I've ever shot in my life again, because I could do it that much better. The camera moving over here a little bit, another light, too much light, you know. And just continue learning and watch a lot of movies, and you know, and then find your own visual voice. I think that's all we can do. And don't forget, you know, as a cinematographer, your main job is to put the director's vision on the screen. You've got to remember that he or she may have been working on trying to get a movie to the screen some 6-7 years, you know. And you know, they don't want some arsehole to come along and say, well, I've got a better idea for this, you know. And, you know, hopefully you can take that director's vision and you can enhance it and make it better and, you know, work as a team. But it's very important. It is the director's vision. You know, and they, you know, probably by the time I directed in that 6 years, a DP might have shot 8 or 9 movies or even 10 movies, you know. And that poor guy's desperate. And he's obviously, having worked that long, getting to where it is, he's got a very strong idea of how he wants his movie to look and to feel and to smell. You know? And if you can get that out of a director, some of them can't really put it into words. You know, how I want it to smell, but it's all part of it. You know?
Well, Nick said to me once, he said, don't worry, every shot's been done.
Probably has, really.
Well, probably by him. I thought, what a fucking relief.
Yeah, just when you do it, just don't screw it up.
Yeah, well, it's the way you put them together.
And Nick was a great one for said, you know, don't forget, take chances, take chances, take chances. And also,
I mean, that handheld stuff running across the boats, I mean,
Right.
it's just chaotic. I mean, but people don't realise how chaotic that was then. I mean, you do it a lot now, and there's so many films that people watch on
it's easier now with the
their
equipment.
iPads.
You know how to
Yeah,
take
but
the
I mean,
crane out.
running,
Yeah.
she's one side of the canal, managing to skip, you're on the other side. And it's all over the place. But
Right.
that was very rare then.
Right.
People didn't do that then. They do it now.
Well, I mean, you know, Nick led the way in a lot of things.
Yeah, well, you say, like, he said, relax, do it.
Yeah.
You know, you give that feeling of
And don't be frightened to take chances. There's also, you know, I learned a lot from Nick too. I mean, a great deal. And he always said, you know, there's no right way or wrong way of doing something. There's this way and that way.
Yeah, well, that wasn't David Lean, but I mean, that's great to have your relationship. You know, you jump off the high ball holding hands. There, come on, then, I'll go with you. You know, off
That's
you go.
right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
It's
what
been a
you're really
wild
hope
ride.
for.
It's been a wild ride. And maybe
Anyway, I think on a wild ride, we'll end it there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks very much. Sorry you were thrown into the deep end.
There you go. Yeah.